The year is 1912. The Titanic, an ocean-going palace, sails proudly across the Atlantic, hailed as the largest, safest, and most luxurious ship ever built. To the passengers on board, nothing seems capable of threatening this steel giant. They believe it to be unsinkable. But beneath the icy waters, imagine something impossible. A hunter from the future, a sleek, nuclear-powered submarine armed with torpedoes designed to shatter modern warships. What would happen if this predator crossed centuries to stalk the Titanic on its maiden voyage? Would the ship's legendary fate unfold even faster? Or would the disaster spark not just tragedy, but the dawn of submarine warfare decades before its time? In April 1912, the Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol. At nearly 900 feet long, weighing over 46,000 tons, it was the largest moving object ever built by human hands. On board were more than 2,200 people, millionaires, immigrants, families, and crew, all bound together on what was promised to be the safest voyage in history. The ship carried state-of-the-art luxuries, electric elevators, lavish dining halls, even a heated swimming pool. To the world, Titanic was proof that technology had finally conquered nature, but beneath the grandeur was fragility. Titanic had no weapons, no escorts, no radar, no sonar. Her wireless radio was meant for passenger messages, not for scanning threats. Even her safety systems were lacking. Just 20 lifeboats for thousands of people. Against an iceberg, this made her vulnerable. Against a modern submarine, she would be utterly defenseless. Naval warfare in 1912 was still primitive. Submarines of the era were slow, cramped, and unreliable. They could barely stay submerged for a few hours. To the men of Titanic's time, the idea of an invisible machine gliding silently beneath the waves, armed with torpedoes that could split battleships, was unthinkable. And yet, in this impossible scenario, that's exactly what awaited them. From the silent depths of the Atlantic, a shadow emerges. Sleek, black, and bristling with technology, a 21st century nuclear attack submarine lurks beneath Titanic's path. Unlike the noisy, gasoline-driven submarines of 1912, this machine is a predator designed for stealth. Powered by a nuclear reactor, it can remain submerged for months without surfacing. Its sonar can map the ocean for hundreds of miles, detecting the Titanic long before the great liner could ever know it was being watched. But its true power lies in its weapons. Loaded in its tubes are MK48 torpedoes, each a self-guided missile of destruction. Weighing over 3,500 pounds, with a warhead powerful enough to split modern warships, a single strike could tear through Titanic's steel hull as though it were tin. And this submarine carries dozens of them. Inside, a modern crew would track every heartbeat of the Titanic. The liner's engines, her speed, even the churn of her propellers would echo like thunder across the submarine's sonar screens. To them, Titanic is not a marvel. It is a slow, defenseless target. In the world of 1912, no sailor, no captain, no passenger could comprehend what lurked beneath. They believed danger came only from storms or ice, but this was no iceberg. This was a weapon from a century beyond their imagination. An invisible hunter waiting to strike, but even gods of war are not invincible. In this impossible scenario, the submarine itself carries hidden flaws. The very time shift that hurled it into 1912 damaged its systems. A reactor coolant alarm flashes red. Its power plant can only operate safely for a few hours before forcing the crew to surface. This is no endless hunt. The clock is already ticking. Worse still, not every weapon is ready. Torpedo tubes misalign from the sudden jolt of the jump. Only 4 warheads are locked and loaded. 4 chances, nothing more. For a machine built to fight modern navies, that's a crippling limitation. Every shot must count, and the Titanic isn't as alone as she seems. Less than 50 miles away, a Royal Navy destroyer patrols the Atlantic. In 1912, it is considered state-of-the-art, a coal-fired warship bristling with quick-firing guns. Against a nuclear submarine, it is hopelessly obsolete. But it has one advantage the Titanic does not: a wireless radio. If the destroyer spots anything unusual, it can raise the alarm and warn the great liner. Now the simulation changes. The submarine's mission is no longer a simple execution. It must stalk, strike, and finish before the destroyer's crew suspects a threat. The question isn't if Titanic can be sunk. One torpedo is enough. The question is whether the submarine can complete its mission before the clock runs out and the enemy's eyes turn toward the sea. Midnight over the North Atlantic. The sea is calm, the sky clear, and the Titanic glides effortlessly through the darkness. Inside, passengers dine, dance, and sleep beneath chandeliers, blissfully unaware that death shadows them from below. Far beneath the waves, the submarine closes in. Its sonar pings bounce against Titanic's steel hull, painting a ghostly outline of the liner on digital screens. To the crew of the sub, it is an easy target. Massive, slow, and blind to what approaches. The order is given. A single MK48 torpedo surges from its tube, leaving a trail of bubbles before vanishing into the black. 30 seconds later, the ocean erupts. A thunderous explosion tears into Titanic's side. Steel bands, cabins crumple, glass shatters. Passengers are hurled from their bunks. To them, it feels like the ship has struck a mine or been hit by some unthinkable force. Unlike the iceberg collision that tore open her hull quietly and slowly, this wound is violent, fiery, unmistakable. Water floods compartments at terrifying speed. Crewmen scramble in confusion, shouting over the chaos. Lifeboat stations are rushed before orders can even be given. Below, the submarine silently reloads. The captain knows every torpedo counts. With only a few available, each strike must be placed with surgical precision. Yet as the Titanic struggles, time itself becomes the enemy. Every minute brings the Royal Navy destroyer closer. The first blow has been struck. The greatest ship in the world is mortally wounded. But the hunter below must decide. Fire again to finish the job, or vanish before the surface world learns it exists. On deck, panic spreads like wildfire. Titanic lists sharply to one side, her lights flicker, and terrified passengers rush toward the lifeboats. Officers bark orders, but confusion drowns discipline. The ship's wireless operators frantically tap out distress calls, SOS messages that echo across the Atlantic. One of those signals reaches the nearby destroyer. The British warship adjusts course, cutting through the waves at full speed. To her captain, the message suggests a collision or explosion. But as the ship closes in, the possibility of something more sinister grows. Meanwhile, beneath the water, the submarine lines up another shot. The captain knows he cannot afford waste. With only a handful of torpedoes available, each launch is a gamble. Another MK48 fires. The second explosion rips through Titanic's midsection, scattering debris into the night sky. From the lifeboats, survivors swear they saw fire burst from beneath the water, something no iceberg could cause. But now the submarine faces a choice. Every torpedo spent brings Titanic closer to her inevitable end, yet each passing minute draws the destroyer nearer. Sonar picks up the rhythmic churn of propellers closing fast. The predator has become the hunted. Inside the submarine, tension rises. Do they finish the mission with their remaining torpedoes, risking detection? Or do they dive deep, fleeing before history learns too much? Above, Titanic's fate is already sealed. Below, the duel is no longer ship versus ship. It is time versus survival. By now, the Titanic is mortally wounded. Her once proud hull groans under the weight of flooding water. Bulkheads collapse. Corridors vanish under torrents of seawater, and within an hour, she is already slipping beneath the Atlantic. The iceberg of history has been replaced by something even deadlier, modern torpedoes. But victory for the submarine is not absolute. With only a handful of shots available and a failing reactor system, it cannot linger. Every moment spent finishing Titanic risks, exposing its presence to the approaching destroyer. The crew listens as sonar pings bounce back, evidence that the warship is searching the sea. The submarine's captain makes the call, disengage. Titanic will sink regardless, but survival of the sub is no longer guaranteed if they stay. Silently, the predator turns into the deep, leaving behind wreckage, lifeboats, and unanswered questions. And so the big question remains, how would history remember this night? Would newspapers report an iceberg, or would survivors speak of explosions, fire, and an unseen enemy? Would the Titanic be remembered as the greatest civilian disaster, or the first casualty of submarine warfare decades before its time? The answer is uncertain. What is certain, however, is that even in this alternate history, the Titanic cannot escape her fate. The difference lies not in whether she sinks, but in how the world explains the unexplainable. In our timeline, Titanic became a symbol of human pride and nature's cruelty. But in this alternate reality, her loss would be seen not as an accident, but as an attack. Survivors would describe the blasts, the fire, and the strange violence of her sinking. No iceberg could explain it. Rumors would spread. Sabotage, secret weapons, unseen enemies stalking the seas.